It's an OCP amendment and rezoning. So the property we're looking at today is 1133 Shuswap Avenue, and it's currently designated town center under the OCP. And it's currently zoned C1, local and town center commercial, which is going to be a big driver of our conversation today. Okay, so the proposal is to just expand the existing house. So there's a home there that's been in existence probably as long as the zoning has, and it's always been residential. And so they want to add an addition, just like many people do these days. And when they do that to this house that is zoned on a property that's zoned C1, they lose their non-conformance. And so what they're proposing is that they would rezone to, do I have it on this slide? The residential might be on the next slide, R1. And then remain town center. And so if you maybe go to the next slide. Thank you. Okay, so the house right now is on a C1 property and it's legal non-conforming, but as soon as you touch that house and start adding additional rooms or whatever else, you lose that non-conformance. And so what we're proposing is to rezone the property from C1 to R1 and then remain town center. And I just want to talk about the town center on the next slide. We had talked about some of these properties at our last PDC meeting because we were getting some inquiries from some of those existing homes that people want to improve or add to. And I think kind of the general consensus that I understood was south of Main Street and on the east side of Shuswap, we might entertain some of those properties rezoning back to residential to allow them to do that without having to lose non-conformance and deal with the commercial piece. And then north of Main Street on Shuswap, we would kind of hope to keep that commercial component. Next slide. So we did have a few other recent applications, pretty recent ones, across the street there. So 303, 307 Fred Bush Lane. They changed to better fit what was being proposed there. And for that property, we also changed the OCP, I guess, development permit area to better fit the multi-family. But for 329 Main Street, which is another similar application that just went through recently, we didn't change the or did we change? No, we didn't change. One did, one didn't. And then on this one, we're not proposing to change as well. So we didn't change on 329 because we felt like we would still want to have a development permit in that area just to make sure it fits form and character for town center. And so the same is being proposed for 1133 Shuswap Avenue. So we would rezone from C1 to R1 and then keep the town center designation and not change the development permit area. On that. And so I think, yeah, our recommendation would be to give first and second reading of the OCP amendment and the zoning amendment for this proposal. Open to discussion.
Okay, thanks, Nicole. Okay, I'll read the recommendation and then we can just go into discussion. Recommending that the Planning and Development Committee meeting recommend to the District of Sicamous Council give first and second reading of the official community plan amendment bylaw number 1076. 2024, and I'll read the second motion is that recommended that the Planning and Development Committee recommend that the District Sicamous Council give first and second reading to zoning amendment bylaw 1077 2024. Okay, discussion. Anybody have any comments or concerns? Deb?
Just more of a question, and with regards to the applicant. So we're keeping it town center. Do they understand what that means in terms of the form and character, and that they're not, you know, like maybe have as much latitude as they would in a purely residential area? And
through the chair, maybe I could defer to June, who's been communicating with the applicant.
Through the chair, just for the clarification purposes, the proponent is looking for the rendering changes in OCP as well from the current town center to the low residential low density. So it will going to correspond to each other. So when we mention when the department references the term town center, it refers to the town center development permit area.
Okay.
For the clarity purposes.
Yeah, because I wouldn't
Okay.
want to be overly onerous or whatever, but obviously it's still a very high profile location in terms of being right in that town center corner area. It's quite visible, so.
Okay. Thanks, Deb. Anybody else? Ian, go ahead.
Yeah, we talked about this one before, haven't we? Or is this brand new?
Through the chair, we would have chatted about it probably on May 15th, just in
Right.
general with the other properties.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so just to orient myself, this is right across from Linda's, which we just did. Okay.
Just behind the jail.
Yeah, I'm fine with that because I mean, I think I made the point earlier was that side is mostly residential anyways, apart from Linda's, right? Which is always kind of, or has been there for a while. So, yeah, I think it makes sense for us as we go through. I know we have OCP on the, you know, on the agenda today, is for us to start thinking about where naturally development is occurring. And I think that, you know, the north is kind of where naturally the commercial development is going to go. And then whatever eventually happens on Finlayson Street, those properties, I know I mean, there's a whole bunch of different things that could happen there, but I'm sure a component of it probably would be a commercial component. So you can kind of see in the town that this is probably where it's going, right? And then if you mostly residential, you know, below that. So I think this makes sense.
Okay, thanks, Ian. John, you?
I agree with the proposal. I like the way it's going, because north of Main Street makes sense for sure. To go commercial and staying residential south of Main Street does make sense to me too, because it is all residential going that direction, like the whole town is, so.
Okay, thank you. Kelly, you might be able to, and I think I've probably asked you this before on taxes. It's zoned commercial now and it's gonna go to R1. Is that it doesn't affect it at all because it is used, is that correct?
Yes, it's traditionally used, right? If it's vacant land, it's a little weird.
Mhm.
But if there's a residential house on it, I would be surprised if it was assessed commercial. They would have appealed it and then they would have changed it. So I'm assuming this would be residential already. So there would be really no financial implications to this. Maybe future, but not right now.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, appreciate it. Okay, so the first recommendation is the Fisher Community Plan Amendment. Can I have a mover on that? Deb, seconder John, all those in favor? Carried. And the second recommendation is for first and second reading of the zoning amendment bylaw number 1077. And I have a mover on that? John, seconder, Deb, all in favor? Carried. Great, thank you. That was easy. Okay, development variance permit number 24-156 DVP 898 and 906 Rama Crescent. Nicole, would you like to give us a little rundown?
Sure.
Thank you.
I think I don't know if the PDC has seen this property before. Just recently they've subdivided and I probably came in at the tail end of that. And so today the properties are separated. We've got 898 and 906 Rama Crescent. And so both properties are designated residential low density. And they're zoned R1, 1 and 2 residential. So the proposal is to apply first for the development variance permit to relax the rear lot line setback requirements. I think I had given the PDC a heads up about this one. And then based on the successful application of the DVP, we'd be looking at a building permit later on. And so the proposal itself, I love these drawings that June throws together to superimpose what's being proposed on the property. And so the DVP would be to relax both properties, rear lot line setback to accommodate a proposed duplex. So the duplex will have a shared wall on the lot line. And so the required rear setback is 5 meters and they're proposing to go to 1.5 meters. And so I guess, like I said earlier, if successful, they'll apply for the building permit. They already have, because they wanted to get the ball rolling, just, depends on how this goes. I know there were some questions about the property to the north and, I think we were thinking that maybe they had already reached maybe their setbacks, but for the property to the north, their, I guess, I'll say it in southern boundary is this property's rear lot line, but for them, it's their interior lot line, so their setback is also 1.5. So we would have a minimum, and it kind of looks like that's where they're sitting at, a minimum of 3 meters between these two buildings. And our recommendation today would be to authorize and issue that variance.
Okay, great. I'll read the recommendation and then we'll go into discussion. Recommended that the Planning Development Committee recommend to the District of Sycamoose Council authorize issuing development variance permit number 24156 DVP for the properties legally described as Lot 1 and 2, Section 6, Township 22, Range 7, west of 6th Meridian, KD-YD, or Kamloops Division of the L. I guess I should read it all out. Yeah, EPP 132099, which is 898 and 906 Rama Crescent, to vary the District of Sycamoose zoning bylaw number 2022 subsection 0.6, principal building setback under R1, 1 and 2 residential, 1 and 2 unit residential, to relax the rear setback from the required 5 meters to the 1.5 meters to accommodate the construction of a duplex. May I have a mover? Ian, seconder, Deb, discussion? Deb?
So just on the previous picture, can we go back to it? Yeah, so what's being superimposed there? So those two white things are the existing homes?
Through the chair, on the two properties,
Yeah.
there's no existing home on either property.
Oh, okay. I saw something and I thought maybe it had two small homes.
Looks like maybe
So
a shaded civic address.
Okay, so it's a vacant, two
Yeah.
vacant lots.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, anybody else? Oh, I did bring it up to you, Nicole. I wondered why they moved their building so far back. They do have a lot of room out front. And it does, it is pretty narrow. If they put a fence up, it's pretty narrow because on their plans, they do have room for an air conditioning unit on the back, which really tightens things up for the fire department if they needed to get back there. But if you guys, I noticed, we didn't have a comment from the fire chief, but if you guys are okay with it, we'll make them.
Just one other comment, in terms of the moving it so far back. I know it's not our role to speculate, but do we think it's so that they can have a lot of parking in the front?
Through the chair, can I defer to June, who's been working with the applicant?
The intent is unknown as of today, but I believe, as you pointed out, because of there will be a duplex, meaning that I believe there will be 4 required off-street parking spaces. So I think it's to traffic and then maneuver the vehicles around the front yard, what is proposed to be the front yard.
Yeah, so obviously parking's easier in the front in terms of access on that particular lot with a duplex. My only concern, and I know this will come back in terms of, like development are you guys going to put any conditions upon how that looks? I'm just a little concerned about it just being gravelled over and just really ugly in front.
I mean, landscape wise, Deb?
Yeah.
Okay, so, go ahead there, Nicole, first.
Okay, through the chair. I think there was a draft development permit in the staff report. It was pretty bare. Was there a landscaping
There was a
component?
there's a minor beautification that will be proposed to done based
That
on
would be
the
good.
renderings that they propose. And for the information purposes in general, the shaping of the form or suggesting the idea of what community anticipates to see through the development. The ideal instrument that we could use will be a development permit.
Yeah.
And this area, I believe, is exempt from development permit area. Therefore, it's kind of hard for the department or the district to kind of impose what we want to see.
Okay, thank you, June. Go ahead there, Ian.
Well, so there is stuff in bylaw 1000 that says how much of it can be paved over and permeable surfaces and all these other different things. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think we do have guidelines for driveways and whether they can be double or single and like, you're not just allowed to pave your whole front yard. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, through the chair.
Go ahead.
That's correct, yeah. That just triggers something in my mind. I know they had recently gone through subdivision and I don't know if part of that they've gone through the access permit process, but they will go through that process with the building permit. And so that's something that the building department and operations is involved in.
Great, thanks, Nicole. Go ahead there, Deb.
Yeah, so just, obviously, they're asking for approval for this development permit. We can't condition it.
Through the chair, this is just a variance to the zoning bylaw.
Yeah,
So this,
okay.
this isn't a development permit.
Okay.
So it's not in a development permit area. It's just a variance to the bylaw, which is the rear setback. And so June, I'm assuming you've had a look at the rest that we've been talking about, the permeable surface and things like that and everything. This is the only variance that's being proposed.
Thanks, Nicole. Go ahead, Ian.
Just like, since we kind of got on this, it's like, okay, now it does look, I appreciate Deb bringing this up. 1.5 meter setback at the rear, it just, it seems awfully tight for that area, right? I mean, we would do 1.5 on some commercial buildings or, you know, we've done RVP at 1.5. I just wonder if that does make sense now. I mean, how hard, so that house at 1405 to, so there's 1.5 on that side, 1.5. And then you're right, Gord, if you do put a fence, which I presume they're gonna wanna put a fence down there, then you have a structure within that 3 meters. That does seem a little tight for what's gonna be a pretty big structure. Actually, they both look like they're pretty big. I mean, that looks like a pretty big house and then the duplex is fairly substantial as well. I like why why is it that tight? I mean, that's really what I mean, it's a good question to ask. Like, why that tight? Like, no, not normally would you want to choose to be that close to your neighbor if you had the choice. Is there any insight into that, or am I just asking?
Go ahead, Nicole.
Through the chair. Well, I guess I'm just wondering maybe what would be an ideal, I mean, our rear setback, which in this case kind of feels like an interior setback just because it's a corner lot,
Right.
is the 5 meter requirement. So, and then the interior for everyone else is 1.5. So it does meet interior side setbacks. If we want, like, I could see saying, I don't know, 3 meters, whatever it's gonna be, and then communicating with the applicant to see if that works for their plan. And then bringing that to council, but not bringing 1.5. Is there an ideal?
Go ahead, there, Ian.
I mean, I was thinking 3, just because then if you put up a fence, you still have room to kind of navigate that fence on both sides. I guess more also what I'm thinking, but now that more I'm looking at it is, where is the common space? Is there any outdoor space? Is there, I mean, or I guess it's in the front yard. It's just, I guess we haven't seen too many proposals like this where there essentially is no backyard. I mean, we see this in condo developments and commercial developments all the time, but not necessarily in a residential aspect where everything's at the front. So I guess what I'm saying is, what's the reasoning or logic behind it? And maybe we don't know. Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
Some of the logic possibly could be because their driveway would be 49 feet, which means you can park your truck with your boat attached. Any smaller than that, you can't really fit, you know, a combined boat, like truck and trailer type setup. Might be the reasoning. Any farther forward, like my boat and truck would not fit in anything smaller than that. That could be.
Yeah,
Could be the possible reasoning.
could be.
Speculative.
And Nicole, you brought this to us earlier. Or it came by email, and I did some homework on it, but I was, the only thing I was concerned about was when they do put their And there was a photo before that showed where their air conditioner was going or their heat pump. And if you put the heat pump back there, it would actually, you almost couldn't get by. You had to get by.
Do you think it's in the staff report, the drawings, like the rendering?
It might have been in the staff report. I'm just looking for it now, but,
And that's part of the
Might
set.
as well take a look.
it was their window well. I can't remember what it was. It didn't give the size of the window well.
Good for you for bringing it up.
But anyways, that was just my only concern. So, 1.5 is pretty narrow, pretty tight. If you're gonna put something back there. I mean, if they were putting nothing back there, it would probably be fine. So, June with the developer, could he confirm that? I mean, that's just basically, I think we're kind of all feeling the same. There should be a little bit more room back there. I mean, I know it'd be nice to park a motorhome and a boat and trailer or all together, but I guess we don't have them online, do we?
Next, I didn't see the applicant online.
Oh. So,
Yeah, they're nice units. I think it would be a nice addition to that property because that property's been nothing but weeds forever. So just a little bit of more room in the back would make a big difference.
so.
Go ahead, Ian.
So now I think I get it a little bit more, right? So they're wanting to, it looks like a double driveway to serve, one driveway to serve both properties. And then it looks like they envision some green space at the front. So yeah, that makes a little bit more sense seeing this and that context if that's what they want to do. Because then at least you have, I guess the common space will just be at the front. And I guess I do see the rationale, the reasoning for probably having that long driveway as an opportunity to put a boat or an RV in plus your truck or your car. So, I mean, I guess the only thing is 1.5 meters enough space to do proper, emergency services and things like that.
I mean, we're making a recommendation for council. Maybe June, if I mean, I'm okay with recommending to go ahead to council. And I'm not sure what everybody else is feeling, but if you do want to just bring it up, there was some concerns that, is there any chance you could give it even if you had a half meter more, at least you'd have a meter to get by. If they had a half meter, you'd have a meter to get by the window well or the heat pump that's back there. And just, and it'll come to council. Yeah. You okay with that, Nicole?
Yeah.
Ian?
Well, I wonder if we can just make a recommendation and say, we'd prefer to see something 2 meters or above. And just have that suggested to the proponent. I'm sure it wouldn't make a dramatic change in these plans, like I think it's just moving it forward. Maybe a half a meter would give us 4 meter, whatever they felt was appropriate, but maybe just go back to, maybe make that recommendation to council that there be just a slight change, and then that would allow staff to go back, and if it messes it up really bad, then they could tell us like, no, this would be really, really bad if you did this, and then we could deal with that at council. So maybe I could just make that recommendation.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with that.
So-
Everybody else is okay with that?
Yeah.
June, this would be a deal breaker for him, do you think, or?
Yeah, minimum 2 meters instead of 1.5.
Okay, no, 2 meters sounds good. Nicole, you're okay with that? Okay, well, June, go ahead.
Through the chair, just for the information purposes, the committee member, Mrs. Hip, that you mentioned that, development variance be conditional. And then in theory, yes, it could be, conditional. So the way it would be structured will be if there is a development variance form, and there will be a scope of the variance that we anticipate to vary. And then subject to the following condition, the district provides the variance on the following property, blah, 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 where we can mention certain aspect that is deemed applicable. Like, for example, if we desire to feature a unobstructed corridor from the rear property of this, we could add the variance condition saying that the variance is provided scope of the variance is provided conditional to the following, and then one condition could be featuring unobstructed passage that has a width of, let's say, 2 meter or 3 meter, the way we define it, and then we could attach that to the condition. Therefore, it stays with the properties. The other aspect that I mentioned is probably related to Councillor Bailey's comment about okay, what's the good amount that we could vary to, and it really depends on the proposal. But in general, the planner tend to look at the magnitude of the variance. Like by the number, it could be like 5 meter to 1.5, or it's just 3.5 meter relaxation. But by the percentage, that's a 70% variance. So anything over, let's say, 40 to 50% is kind of questionable, unless there is a good rationale that will explain why those variance is applicable. By the nature of the development variance, the provision of it, we are making a one-off situation. Thereby, the proponent is advised to describe and persuade why this one-off provision can be made, and it would not harm the policies outlined by OCP and zoning.
Yeah, that is a good point. I mean, it is a large variance, and it's kind of an outlier to what our OCP and other things are. I don't have any problem with, I think, north of 2 in this case, because we are taking vacant lots that are not really producing anything, and we're turning it into residential housing, which I think we all want to see. So I just think 1.5 is just a little too much. If they could do north of 2, I would be more comfortable with that. If they can't, then I think it's up to them to say why they absolutely need 1.5 and how this is critical to this development. So,
Yeah.
am I amending this or?
Yeah, no,
Okay, so I'd just like to make a motion to amend the proposed rear setback, or to recommend to council that the proposed 1.5 meter setback would be increased to a minimum of 2. It could be.
Unobstructed 2 meters.
What do you mean by unobstructed?
Well, like June was saying,
Oh,
it's like if we make it to 2 and then they still stick something behind there,
Oh,
like
I
they
see
eat
what you're
bumps
saying.
it.
Right, okay, so an unobstructed 2 meter, but I'm kind of just leaving this to like staff to go back to have a conversation with them. But how do you want me to word it?
That's good, you're amending the main motion.
Yeah.
So from the 5, there's, sorry, from 5 to 1.5, you're saying from 5 to a minimum of 2.
2 meters.
And then you'll vote on that, or move and second vote we made motion, which you already have.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, okay, all right.
okay, that's good. Do you have a seconder? Deb, all those in favor? Okay, carried. That's good.
Well, that was a good catch, actually. That was really good, Deb.
Yeah, no, I mean, you don't want to turn development away, but you also, and he might say he needs the 1.5 and, oh, by the way, or 2, and by the way, I'm gonna move my heat pumps and they're gonna be on either end of the house.
Yeah, yep.
That could change. Sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
And then you'll just vote on the main motion
As amended.
Yeah, okay.
Just a technical.
Main motion, okay, may I have a mover? Deb? Seconder? Ian, all those in favor? Okay. Carried. You got that? Thank you, Sarah, for just pointing us in the right direction. Right? Especially me. Okay. Got enough information there, moving right along. Okay, we're gonna go on to item C. Non-farm use ALC application, 1500 Standicky Road. Cool.
Through the chair, yes, so this is an application that's been made to the ALC for a non-farm use. Sorry, it's 1500 Stadnicky. So it's designated under the OCP, the property rule. And it's zoned A1. Okay, so the proposal itself, they've submitted this non-farm use application to accommodate 10 camping spaces on the property. And then the intent would be to operate the 10 camping spaces to generate enough money to, I guess, clear the land so that it's actually, usable for farming. Next slide. Got a delay today, sorry. I think I really,
At least to
really
assess.
touchy.
Don't wanna cooperate.
Yeah.
Just hit the arrow button on
Yeah,
the.
that would be better. Well, now it's angry.
Compensate.
Okay. Okay, so I feel like this inquiry has come to us a number of times. And so in previous conversation, we noted that if they establish the 10 RV sites, that would be a permitted use if they accommodate agritourism activity and is in that case, agritourism accommodation. The piece that's missing with this is that there isn't quite that agritourism yet. But to be able to get there, you kind of have to have I guess, the people there to clear the trees to get the agritourism. So that's the plan behind this application. And so the ALC has obviously referred this to us. I believe it requires a resolution from council in support or not in support. And so we'll have to take this to council at a later date, after we chat about it today. Next slide, hopefully. Okay, so, the ALC uses the BC assessment classification, and in this case, right now, it is classified as residential because there is an existing home on the property. June took a look back in previous assessments, and it was classed as farm in 2007, but then maybe the house came after that, I don't know. So currently, it's assessed as residential. And that could also be because like it was farmed and now it's not farmed. We don't really know those details. Okay, so I mean, kind of already talked about the approach that we're doing right now. Not that it's backwards. But looking to do the 10 camping spaces first so that people can like live and work there to tree the land so that they can have agritourism. And ideally, the approach would be to already have that agritourism in place and then come in with the camping and you'd come there and enjoy the farm and farming activities. So that's just the situation that we're in right now. I guess what they're saying is that they can't get to the farming activities until someone farms it, and they can't have someone farm it until they have the money for that, and that's why they want the campsites now. I think that's a good generalization of the application.
Okay,
And so in the recommendation, just to explain it a bit, we're just looking for some direction on the non-farm use application, and we can for sure make a recommendation for council today in one way or another, but we're just saying that right now, in terms of the OCP, it doesn't quite align because the agritourism isn't there. But perhaps there's a way that we can make it work where, you know, this is pending that agritourism happening, open to ideas.
okay, all right, thanks, Nicole. Okay, I'll read the recommendation that the Planning and Development Committee provide direction on non-farm use application to the BC Agricultural Land Commission for the property legal described at legal subdivision 5, section 5, township 22, range 7, west of the 6th meridian, Kamloops Division, Yale District, except for plan NEP 88606. 1500 Standicky Road to facilitate 10 camping spaces to increase income and aid to removal of open farmland. Can I have a mover? Deb, seconder, John, discussion? Anybody have any questions or ideas here? Okay, go ahead, Deb.
Yeah, just a thought, because of course, you know, like we've done these sorts of approvals or recommendations before where, you know, give us this and we will give you that down the road, and the down the road is like, anyway, I certainly understand the issues as a property owner that you need cash flow in order to be able to put certain things in place, but it just seems a little open-ended. And how do we make a recommendation to the land, you know, the Agricultural Land Commission, when there's really no meat here that satisfies anything in our OCP or otherwise, but I don't know.
Okay, interesting. Amy, you're next.
Yeah, I mean, I was almost kind of thinking the same thing. Was, I mean, is this a seasonal campground or is this gonna be an RVP zone? Like, what is the vision for this area? Cause I was just looking at the map here, right? It's pretty compact, right? Like the proposal, I guess they sent to ALC is. Yeah, it's tight. So there's a lot going on in that small site. And then I guess. Correct me if I'm wrong, the rest of it is all treed. Well, isn't the timber worth something? You know, so. I certainly get the idea behind it. I'm actually all for some more camping spaces in Sycamoose. But these more look like trailer lots than maybe camping. I mean, it's just a very, very small lots proposed. But.
Okay.
I guess maybe, is there any more insights that we have, or this is because this has gone to the ALC, they're asking the ALC and then the ALC's come back to us saying, hey, how do you feel about this idea?
Do you support it?
And I guess what I'm saying now is, I don't know how I feel about it because I don't really see anything about what it would look like. And how that would fit in with the existing, I guess all of it is existing farmland around there. And is that, so we go down the street, that's the Trans Canada Highway and the Husky?
Yeah.
So then the Monashee is right front there,
Oh, she's right
Yes.
close to it.
right in front. So this is the one right beside it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, John, do you have any ideas? Or,
I'm all for having more campsites as well. You know, if you're guys are terribly concerned about, you know, the future of it, can we not put like a covenant on the property that, you know, a time frame? Like set up if you're terribly concerned about producing it. I personally think it's not being used for anything currently, and it won't be for the next 30 years unless they get an income, so it's a bridge to something.
okay, thanks, John. Yeah, my opinion is, I mean, the final say comes down to the ALC. And of course, we can work with them on, if it does get approved by them. Myself, it hasn't been farmed for, as far as I can see, forever. And, there's a little spot there to put in some spots and, you know, wish them all the best. I think more camp spots are the better. And, that's my opinion anyways. And, so I think, you know, I think a recommendation from council to support an ALC application is always good, if they still got lots of homework to do. Deb?
Yeah, and I was gonna say, you know, even though Ian and I are going, oh, what is there?
Yeah.
There, it is just that little piece at the front, it, you know, so it is one of these things where it's not like a lot's going on. It wouldn't be a big deal. So sure, why not? So.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
They're not changing the whole lot into a campground. They're sticking to a small portion for now and.
Be okay if we got all changed in a campground, but.
Yeah.
Darian?
Yeah, I guess, my only other question here, so this is within the district boundaries. Is this on our sewer and water or is it separate?
Water, no sewer,
Water, no sewer,
right?
is that correct? Yeah, okay.
Shows the septic field.
Yeah, that makes me feel a little bit better. Well, just because we have some sewage capacity issues, we all know. So if that's being handled on site, then that becomes less of an impact on what we are already having to deal with ourselves. But sure, I guess all we're doing is saying to the LC, like, we don't have an objection to it.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, I think our recommendation be to make go to council and have council do a support letter for these folks so they can apply for go back and apply and take that letter to the ALC. So Can I have anybody make that motion?
I'll move it, yeah.
Ian, oh, sorry, go ahead, Nicole.
Through the chair, I believe we need a council resolution.
Yeah.
Similar to the ALC applications for subdivision in the ALR. We just did one not too long ago. So yeah, we'll be looking for that resolution, one way or the other, in support or not support of the application.
Okay, Ian's moved it, Deb seconder, all those in favor? Carried. Great, okay, so yeah, you can take that to council and away we go. Okay, moving right along. Item D, 24-131 DVP 1383 Silver Sand Road. Nicole.
Hey, through the chair, we are looking at this one again. So 1383 Silver Sands Road. We've talked about this before at the PDC, then we did an on-site visit, and now we're coming back to it. Property is designated residential waterfront medium density, and it's currently zoned, I missed the zoning, RVP. This is fun. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so what was discussed at the on-site meeting was 3 variances. So one would be to accommodate a new awning, which is attached to the existing mobile home park model. And in our zoning bylaw, under the general regs, awnings are to be detached. So that's one variance. And then if the awning is attached, it is a part of the principal residence and subject to those setbacks. And so there's 2 setback variances being requested. Is that on the next slide? Yes, so the front setback is being requested to be varied from 4.5 meters to 3.35 meters. So we've worked out some of those discrepancies in our last meeting. And then the side setback, which is the bigger variance request, right now they're required to have a 1 meter and they're requesting 0.2 meters. So we've got 3 variances proposed. We've narrowed it down after having many discussions about it. One is to have the awning attached to the building, which makes it a part of the principal residence, which in turn gives us 2 more setback variances, the front and the side. Really making it today. Okay, and so I think in the next slide, sorry, June. Not there. We didn't put a recommendation for this one. That's a lot of variances. We should know that it is an existing awning, or what was it, 90% built, and it's got a stop work order on it. So I guess there's a couple different directions we can go. If we say no to any of this, then we're looking at a partial demo of what's already been constructed and then meeting whatever requirements we're looking for. Or, I mean, I guess you could approve all 3 variances and the stop work order could be lifted and they could complete their project. We're just kind of looking for what direction that we might want to go after our many conversations in this room and on site.
Okay, thanks, Nicole. I'll read the recommendation and okay, recommended that the Planning Development Committee provide direction for the proposal development variance permit for the property located at 1383 Silver Sands Road. Before I just going to open up for discussion, I did want to say that we did go on site and did a tour. It was pouring rain. So it was actually held in the clubhouse. And they have a new board of directors and a new president there. And anyways, I noticed that this application was actually done before bylaw 1000 was adopted. So I shouldn't say this application, this work was done prior to. And at the time, this gentleman was on council, was on the board, and they kind of had their own little, they had their own little policies over there where they kind of all, pretty much the entire resort has done the same thing this person's done. And they kind of did it low key and this is what this guy did and got caught. So I just wanted to mention that this was done before bylaw 1000. So they've kind of had their own little issues going on over there, but they've said they are going to control it from going forward with this new board. Deb was actually at the meeting as well. And the president said that they're gonna come up with a policy that they're not gonna allow owners to start building anything. They're gonna make them come to the district. So, you know, I feel for this guy because he did go out and you know, everybody in the park knew he was building this, except for the district of Sycamoose. And he got caught, and probably 80% or 90% of the development in there didn't get caught. So it's not a good position to be. He's in a little bit of a dilemma. I'd hate to see it come down. It is probably the strongest structure in the entire development. He's got his neighbors' approvals, but I know we got to talk about it and try to get the staff be able to give them some direction. But I feel for the guy. And you know, it's a nice structure. It's well built, but we got to figure out where to get this moving, because it's actually been sitting here since I think since December. So, okay, comments from the floor or from the council? Go ahead, Deb.
Yeah, so like you say, it's definitely structurally, it's well built. And you really, I got confused when this first came with the term awning and that. So to me, it's a carport, you know, and so all you have is those posts adjacent to the neighbors. And so there's no issue with access or whatever there, you know, like from a fire control perspective, there's lots of space there in terms of them being able to get in and around it, because it really is just those posts that are holding up the carport roof.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
that, from my perspective, that setback is not an issue that way.
Okay. Ian?
Yeah, this is a tough one for me because I'm a little ticked off about this, to tell you the truth, because we spent a lot of time with, you know, the condo board there and talking to people and spending many months. And then this was going on and they did stop it. I mean, they knew our concerns around the 1 meter and we bent on that. Like we certainly the 1 meter is not the ideal for the fire department. And then this kind of happens and I just like, I don't know how I'll vote on this at council. I want some time to think about it, but I can tell you if I vote for it, it'll be the very last time that I'll do it. And this should never happen again, ever. And I think this is on the condo board to make sure it never happens again. If it does, then, you know, we're gonna have to look at how this gets dealt with going forward. I think this also says that we need these citing permits, and I know that's in the works, but you know, this is a big problem. This is 0.2, you know, from a meter. A meter was already tight. And I'm not sure how I feel about going forward on it. I agree that this guy is in a tough spot and everyone else has done this. And unfortunately, he's the one who kind of get caught doing it. But there's always going to be that person, right? When you do something without permits, and unfortunately, the information that I think he was given that he could just do it is entirely wrong. But I also want to just point out that why we did these setbacks was because of some fire concerns. And those concerns I still have, right? Where everything is jammed so tight together. And, you know, whether it's a vehicle or not, it all does burn and it creates a potential problem. I guess the only thing I would ask maybe staff is, you know, if this is, and sorry, I wasn't able to go over on the tour that day, but if what we're talking about is a carport, is it possible to move this carport to a meter setback? You know, if all we're talking about is moving posts and some other things so that it does comply. And I don't know what the feasibility of that is, but maybe I'll ask that question to anybody that would be in the know.
I mean, I can comment on it. I mean, it's already built and it's got it built into the concrete, so he'll have to pull it back a meter and put in new re-drill the concrete and put in saddles. So it is a little bit of a dilemma. I think the problem, and I would have actually would love to have you be there, Ian, because I actually went around, after that meeting we had, and I went around again later on, and looked at some of the other, there is a problem in all of these
Yeah.
resorts where I mean, this guy's place is wide open compared to anybody else. I mean, there's places you cannot get through between 2 or 3.
Yeah.
You can't get through because they have cedars or they have, you know, sheds and part of, what do you call them? Carports, enclosed carports. But the owner did, the new president said that they were gonna come up with a new standard policy that nobody's gonna be able to do this again. But how do we go back to, you know, how does their fire chief, how do they get through? I mean, they're gonna have to move 2 or 3 units around to get into the back of one side if they ever have to. So it is a problem in these resorts, but at least these guys recognize it. I know it was kind of loosey-goosey. These guys do recognize it, but this poor gentleman, I mean, this has to go to council and I mean, they'll have to vote on it. And yeah, I just think, you know, for staff, they gotta get this application moving forward because it's been sitting like this since December. So I think, go ahead, Ian.
I just want to ask another question because I just want to understand what the implications of, I mean, we're obviously making a recommendation to council, but I always like to ask you guys questions here, so I take up less time at council. It's kind of how I work. So let's just do a hypothetical here. Let's say council turns this down. It already has a stop work order on it. He doesn't comply with the setbacks, then we'd have to force him to take that structure down.
Yeah, through the chair, correct.
Oy. And it's 90% built already. It's just missing a few things, right?
95%. You
Is
need
it?
one more sheet of metal.
Jeez, okay.
There's a hole in the roof.
And then maybe if I can just ask another question, because I think I mean, I knew about this issue a couple of weeks ago and I guess some of my views on it changed after this fire out in Malaqua too, right? So I know this was always a bit of a concern, but after that, it kind of heightened my concern about what's maybe happening here. Is like now that we have these setbacks established, that's going forward, right? When you change those lots, these setbacks then kick in. But currently, right now, we're just leaving it legal non-conforming. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
So, okay.
Just
Mhm.
quick question, if I may.
Head there, June.
Through the chair, the Councillor Bailey, when you inquire that whether this structure as is today, is a legal non-conforming, is that a question that you inquired?
Well, yeah, I guess that is a bit of a question. If we allow these variants, does it become like a legal non-conforming?
I believe as of today, with the partial improvement already rendered, it exists as an illegal non-conforming.
Okay.
The only method to remediate it would be acquisition of the development variance. Therefore, the proponent desires to obtain one. The other aspect that I may just share for the information purposes is that it's depending on like a departmental approaches or the district's like a general flexibility. Sometimes the department or district may not request a demolition, however, just put the bylaw contravention notice. So when the time flies to the like a future, because of that registered legal notation, advising the future property acquirer that there is a bylaw contravention notice attached to it and it has not been remediated, it may act as an instrument to remediate the process in the future, but it would take some time. So it usually depends on how the districts wants to enforce or department views the instrument of the remediation. So there is a different approaches that.
Thanks, June. Go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, just like another question, because this whole development's kind of evolved over this next year. And it was only supposed to be seasonal, but now we've taken that covenant off of it as well. Is that, did we finalized that piece,
Through
right?
the chair, yeah, so there were a couple covenants on title that spoke to the seasonal use, and so those have been removed. And our zoning bylaw currently allows season or year round.
Year round.
Yeah,
And I did want to note that there was, I can't remember if I remember right, I think there's about 5 or 6 cedar trees between the posts and which are on the neighbor's property and the neighbor's trailer. And the neighbor said, if you want to take them out, you can take them out because they're not doing well. They're not really green, or they're green, but they're not doing well. So he said he would take them out if recommended by the council. Or, yeah. Okay,
And I would.
anybody else? Sarah had something?
Through the chair, just to note the recommendation here, I don't know that that should be what's actually read out because it's asking for direction from.
Yes.
So you guys will need to craft your own recommendation as to how you want staff to proceed and present to council.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, go ahead, Ian.
Sorry, I just want to ask some more questions here. It'll help me. So I brought up that before, and I don't know if we have any solution to that, but maybe you guys saw a solution to that on site. Was the snow loading on top and where that snow would go if there's only like, is there an area where that snow could go when it's this tight?
There's probably about a meter there, I would say. It's probably a meter, but he said he would put snow rakes on the top too, so the snow doesn't go anywhere. And that's how it is built, pretty strong.
Oh, but the snow has to go, it can't just pile up all winter. Like, I mean, unless it's that strong where you could have all the snow accumulation through the winter, let's say, and it doesn't slide.
I think the building inspector did talk to him about it, having it engineered. And he has spent money on engineering for it, so I'm not sure. But snow could stay on this one. This is not like the one next door, or the probably 80% of the other ones that are made out of corrugated tin that are pretty thin. They almost look like downspouts. Their uprights look like downspouts. That's all. This one's 6x6s, cedar, or not cedar, but 6x6 timber. So I think it would have to be engineered.
So can I ask the question, was it engineered, or is there a document that says it was engineered?
through the chair. So there may be a couple different components of engineering because it has to be engineered to be able to be structurally attached to the park model.
Yep.
That's for that piece. I don't know if there's been any engineering about their snow load.
Actually, sorry, through the chair, I thought it was the other way around from speaking to him, that it was engineered for the snow load, but he hadn't dealt with it being structurally attached.
Yeah, through the chair. So I guess that could exist. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it's two different types of
Yeah.
things that they're looking for. One to be structurally attached, one for the snow load. So it sounds like maybe they already have both in place or would need both in place.
Okay,
That's kind of up to Tyson's.
anybody have any other ideas, concerns? Nicole?
I was just thinking back to about like, what do we do here? Is it a full demo? And June's comment about the section 57. That is an option. So we could say yes to these variances or throw this and have this section 57 on title. We'd have to get council to endorse that section 57. So it would have to come to council as well instead of a full demo. If that's something that's a concern.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ian?
Yeah, I don't want to see him tear it down. Don't get me wrong, but I also want to have a very clear message that these rules need to be followed, and they were there and we worked hard on them. And I don't want it just to give this a simple pass and say, okay, you know, this is okay. It's really not okay. And I think somehow we need to find a bit of a compromise here. So maybe that is the right approach, where we can say that. Yeah, it's just really, really tough, this tight, point two, but, yeah, at the same time, it would be a shame to see that, it come down, especially when you go through the entire park and you see everything else kind of in that same context, right? And then is this poor gentleman kind of getting caught there? But there's the other flip side of the coin too, is these separations are there to allow firefighting and allow emergency services to get in there. So I'm just really torn, but I think what we should do is try to find the best compromise here possible so that we're not ripping down a structure. But there has to be, I feel, a strong message from council as well, that this is never going to happen again. And if it does, you're ripping it out, right? Anyway.
Sure, I think, I mean, I would, I have no problem with somebody somebody wanting to make a recommendation that cedars have to come out, subject to engineering, subject to a letter from the neighboring property, that the cedars could come out and they're okay with the setback. And then also with the section 57, if you think that's the way to go, and it comes to council and we do a presentation and let them know that, and maybe we need something from the strata saying they're not gonna let this happen again. I don't know if that's doable.
If I could just add to that, I would say a letter from the strata acknowledging that they are going to do a much better job going forward. And I would say, if the neighbors support this, then it would be very helpful for those letters to come before council as well. To say, hey, this is my neighbor, I don't have a problem with it. And I'd feel more comfortable with that.
Okay,
I mean, I think there has to be some work involved here, and there has to be some assurances going forward that we have in writing that they acknowledge that, this is a mess up, but we're trying to work with this guy. So we're not taking a perfectly good piece of construction and throwing it out. But at the same time, full acknowledgement of the rules, that these were contravened, and that they just will not do it again. And that the rules are important too, right? And they're not there just to be mean. They're there for really good, sound purposes. So.
okay, June, did you see any problem with that? No, okay. Deb?
I was just gonna say, I would feel a lot more comfortable on the whole issue of the fire separation if those cedars weren't there.
Yeah.
So if that's part of it, then I feel like the setback is sufficient as far as the fire separation, because it is wide open.
Okay, Nicole, you had your,
Through the chair, yeah, I was just thinking, we obviously do a lot of development variance permits, we don't do a lot of section 57s. I don't know if it makes sense that you would have both. Like a section 57 is usually when they're really not cooperating, and in this case, they've applied for this variance, and we're going to maybe issue it, which in turn could release the stop work order and the building could continue. So section 57 might not make sense in this case, but I'll look into it.
okay. All right. Kelly, do you have your hand up? Okay, go ahead, John.
I do. I agree with Ian that that definitely has to be a very stern message going across to not just to them, but also to the other RVP zones as well. That that needs to be an acknowledgement for this for sure. Because it's you have a prime example in Malacca of what does happen when setbacks aren't followed. You had five units go up and firefighting was not even able to get into the stop zone. So we definitely have to have a letter from the Stratas for sure. Like, I think that has to definitely be a stipulation acknowledging that they're going to keep within the proper setbacks, because our fire chief, and it's not just this unit safety, it is our volunteer fire department's safety at stake here. Like, I don't wanna have our fire department guys going in and getting injured because of not proper setback, like that's.
Yeah.
That's. Yeah, I'm with Ian on this one 100%, where it needs to be a very stern written out process on this, and there needs to be letters involved to make sure that everyone is in understanding and that it will not happen again, because it is a safety issue, and I don't want to see it torn down either.
Yeah.
There needs to be acknowledgement for sure that this will never happen again.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, I agree.
So could I make a recommendation then, just following along what you said? So, and just maybe word crafted here a little bit, is a letter from the strata acknowledging it and, stipulating that they are putting in rules and procedures in place that this won't happen again. And then number two, letter from the neighbors agreeing, you know, to basically like agreeing to it, saying they don't have a problem with it. Three is, what was that third? Sorry.
Cedars.
Yeah, sorry, removal of the cedars.
For engineering.
At four, we need an engineering report on snow load. And I know that's going to be, you know, it's gonna cost some money or
That
whatever.
would be a requirement of the building permit.
Okay.
I'm assuming would automatically be part of that.
So yeah, we need to have that, you know, if this is going to withstand the entire year's snow load, that it's not gonna collapse and potentially harm other structures. So I think we need to have that. And is that kind of everything?
Yeah, we took the seven,
Yeah,
7-0. Yeah.
okay. So I would say I would be comfortable making that recommendation to council insofar as these are things that should come to council for their consideration. And, you know, then I think that there's enough of a message here and enough of a concern expressed that hopefully this would never happen again, and then these rules are always going to be followed, because I think they are important. They're important for safety.
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks for those recommendations. Seconder? Deb? Okay, all those in favor? Carried. You got enough to go on there, Nicole?
Thank you.
Okay, I didn't know there was that online.
Through the chair, I know we had some questions about 898 and 906, not to jump ahead, but I did see that they joined. If we wanted to chat again about the rear setback for those two properties
Oh, okay, yeah, that was,
we're talking about.
no, I was just wondering if the applicant for this one was online. The Kelly fellow. Okay,
I think they're
okay.
three different things.
Yeah, we could go back,
Okay,
yeah, we
okay, I'll go.
go back and, yeah, go ahead there, Nicole.
Okay, through the chair. So for current applications, not too much of an update on some of our, I guess, oldies. And then if we go to the bottom of the slide here, I think we've addressed most of the new applications, so we're looking pretty good. The 3307, 1383 we just talked about today. I should take off 425 Main Street because that's successfully been rezoned. Temple will be coming. 329's in the process. 1455 Silver Sands Road is Sycamore Sands. They were looking for that 0 meter rear setback. Oh yes, I need to take off 410 Cottonwood Avenue. They did pull their application for their rezoning for short-term rental in a residential area. 326 Merrill Lake Lane, we've been chatting about at council. For 1 Mervyn Road, I guess they weren't in too much of a rush. It's the redesign of the Sick Moose houseboats. They did amend their application to only include redesign of the existing buildings. So we should bring that. I should probably connect the applicant. We've been chatting about a lot of their other stuff that's happening, but we should revisit that. 1436 Silver Sands Road. Oh yeah, this one, 1436 Silver Sands Road, we did a development variance permit. Feels like a while ago now, and they got the variance, and just last week they submitted their, or maybe it was this week, their development permit and building permit. So they're gonna come in for the water course development permit. They have hired a QEP to do a report So that process is going, which is good news. He still wants to do that addition. That's probably all I have for updates unless there's any questions about the other ones.
No, sorry.
No,
Go ahead there.
I just, on 425, I think there's a resolution based on what we talked about, just the pathway, but is there any update on that? And or do we get that figured?
Through the chair, maybe I'll pass to June because he's been working with. the
Okay.
applicant.
Yep. So through the chair,
You-
our department has been working with the proponent about the amendment drawing, which is currently being reviewed for the development variance permit application. And then through the latest drawing that they corroborated, there has been on the east side of the side property lot line, there was enough space to be turned into the statutory right of way for the pedestrian corridor, which has a width of, I think, 3 meters. And then there was an interdepartmental discussion featured in relation to the width of the internal road, which was preferred to be remained at 8 meters. So the previously submitted site plan with the entirety of the building and then all the associating amenities proposed has been moved to the west side as an entirely as a whole. So on the final drawing, 8-meter internal road width has been secured, which was preferred by the fire department, and there's a 3-meter corridor for the pedestrian walkway.
Okay, good news.
Yeah, and so that variance will be coming probably the next couple council meetings.
I believe because of DBP requires a public, the notification, not the public notification, sorry, the notification to the affected property owners and tenants. I think the 10th of July may be feasible.
They've, just for an update on that, they intend to submit their building permit drawings by the end of this week, assuming all goes well, so that they can start that process while we finalize the variances. And I believe it's gonna be, the variances are a landscape buffer on the one side. Potentially, I haven't seen the revised drawings, but there'll be 2 or 3 variances.
Yes.
Yes. To accommodate the statutory right of way, and then with the massing and the shading of the building. Yeah.
Thank you, Kelly and June.
Yeah, that's great.
Go ahead there, Deb.
Just a question and kind of out of left field, but you and I talked before about this whole issue of riparian development and somebody coming to council. Or like, are they coming to the PDC or just council, or has that been pinned down yet? How's the timing of that?
Kelly can comment on that.
So I've reached out to the people over there and I'm waiting on confirmation on timing from them. They've gotten back to me and now they're just checking on their end about what works and who exactly will be coming.
Okay, and so
In the
that would
works-
be council?
Probably a committee meeting, I'm thinking.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, to be determined. I'll keep you posted.
Perfect.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments? Cole, just, gonna ask on the, 102 Martin and 902 Martin, any movement on that, file at all? The sites is kind of, getting, the grass is growing there and
Oh, yes.
see a demo permit, you make it clean.
Yeah, so, through the chair, it's the very top one, 21-083-DP. It's an older one. So I'm aware that a QEP has been hired to submit a report for the demo and the subdivision, and that would be for 102 Martin Street. Nothing has been submitted for 902 Riverside Avenue to the province. That's my update.
Do they have to do do they have to do a riparian area report for both properties? Would not, if they're gonna be one property, would one report not suffice?
Yeah, I guess, so right now they are 2 properties, so if they're looking to subdivide 902 Riverside Avenue, that probably should have been included in the application to the province for the demo and the subdivision, but it wasn't. I mean, yeah, I guess that could be something we could look at. If they're consolidated right away, then they're all 102 Martin. We just, don't
Okay,
have that.
I'm curious, just trying to speed it up so that they can get the grass cut and kind of clean that site up, because it is pretty,
there any reason they can't get the grass cut? Or like, it's just, I've got the judges coming July 8th and 9th, and I have had people complain to me about how the site looks.
yeah, so have I, yeah. I guess we can talk to the applicant and see if we can clean it up for, the judges and, move
Yeah,
forward.
I realize that, like riparian area could be problematic, but at least along Riverside, they could go back quite a ways and it would look a lot better. So.
Well, is,
Okay, go ahead, Ian.
yeah, I don't think there's anything preventing them from cleaning the site. Or making it look pretty as far as I know, unless there's a new regulation. In terms of what them not being able to do that down by the water. I mean, but I mean, if there is, then that would be weird. But I mean, I guess I just want to follow up on just something you said, because it's kind of a big deal. If there's only an application in for 102 Martin and there isn't one in for 902 Riverside, well, we've approved the site for 102 and 902 Riverside. It really, the approved drawings include both.
It's one development.
Yeah, as one development. So I guess, how does that work?
Through the chair, it's a good question. I guess just the way our OCP reads is that before they subdivide, they do need to get a watercourse development permit. And I mean, only if you consolidate, only half the property has been assessed. And I'm not a riparian specialist, but we would only know that SPIA line on 102 Martin and not 902 Riverside. And of course, you could probably carry it through, but like I said, I'm not the expert. We would need someone to tell us where that line is on 902 as well. Right now, we're only getting the information for 102.
So to follow up, would we as a municipality be able to say, well, we got the 102, we feel confident that 902, it would be roughly the same? And I'm not asking this as like, I'm asking this more as like legally, what are we allowed to do as a question? It's like, do we even have that authority or ability to say, well, we're just gonna allow 902 to go forward? I guess I don't know if anybody knows that answer.
Good question.
It's a good question.
Okay,
It's not so straightforward. It's a bit complicated. Maybe you could argue either way. It's really our bylaws. Our bylaws require it, as well as so does the riparian areas regulation. So, but if they're consolidated, I don't know. I think what's really important is identifying the SPIA line on the other property, because it's identified in the one property, but not the other one, right? So just at a minimum to identify that piece from a QEP.
so our bylaws require that we should have a study on both properties.
Yeah, through the chair, our OCP says, yeah, before you subdivide, which that's the intent.
Or develop.
Yeah, you need to identify that. Yep, you have to do the study.
Okay. Yeah, through the chair, right? Through the chair.
Do yourself.
I tell you, this is, whether it's our bylaws and our bylaws, that's why I asked for them to be produced today. We have to get these bylaws right, because this is like red tape and it's really slowing down the, not our problem, it's the way our bylaws are written. And it slows down development. And this is a prime example of, something that could have actually been fairly simple, but it's turning into and who knows, it could take a year for us to get this thing going. But anyways, I just thought I'd ask the question and oh, sorry, go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, and just on this property as well, I know that late last week, Nicole did reach out to the province to get an update to the QEP. We're trying to help facilitate this as fast as possible from our end to make sure that we're, getting things done and pushing people as well. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to even check to see if you've gotten a response yet. Yeah.
Okay, and Nicole, and I'm not sure the difference between a QEP report and a riparian area management plan, which supposedly is supersedes a report. But didn't the applicants provide that, which included both lots? That's what he was indicating to me. So I just wondered if you were familiar with that at all.
Through the chair, they might have submitted that, but the information I'm getting from the province, who ultimately has the approval for this SPIA area, is just for the one property.
Okay. Okay, well, that's good. I'll go ahead, Ian.
And wow, why isn't there one just submitted for 902 Riverside? Is it a cost issue or is it just an oversight? I'm just trying to think like, I mean, if the province is just gonna say to you, well, you actually need one for the other one and you can't go forward on a development permit or anything else or a building permit. If that just comes to council and the province says that we can't do that, is there? And honestly, if you don't know the answer to it, that's fine too, but then why wasn't there just one done for 902? Is there any reason?
Through the chair, I've had that conversation with the owner and they chose to do the one property only.
Oh,
Yeah, I let them
okay.
know that both are required, but what I got from the province was just the one.
Well, then I mean, if that's what you're being told by the province, I mean, ultimately that is a provincial decision that I mean, we've had so many discussions about this around council. And I know people are frustrated, but we also know that we don't actually really control this. Actually, it's not, we don't control this. So, I mean, maybe that advice could go back and say that I don't even think council could approve a building permit without those documentations. So it's not even a question about whether we agree or not. We will just have to do whatever we can that we're legally allowed to. And if that property isn't approved, then legally we're not allowed to go ahead with issuing permits. So maybe it's just best to follow the procedure here and try to get this thing going. But if only half of it's done and the province tells us like, well, you can't actually do the other half, that's not going to be any good for this project at all. Because the project can't go forward because it's 102 and 902 Riverside based on the plans that we approved.
Yeah, no, I think Nicole's waiting to hear back and you're trying to expedite it, but you're waiting to hear back.
Yeah, and through the chair. Well, I guess, and that's where it's a very gray area, because just the one property has been submitted, not the other. And yes, they could be consolidated and all become 102, but we all know that only half the property has been assessed. And we're not the experts to say, well, let's just draw a straight SPIA line up. Like, where is that? It might follow something, I don't know. And so I would hate to like approve development in that area because we made up the imaginary line, carrying it from 102. I think that's the dilemma.
Okay, thank you. All righty, no other questions on our current applications? Everybody's good? Moving forward. I think we skipped our transportation corridor. Okay. I'll go back to that one. Okay, I did just give everybody send out a brief transportation corridor. And Nicole, yesterday, I couldn't open it on my screen for some unknown reason. It wouldn't bring it up. But anyways, I sent one out and everybody had a copy. Did everybody have any questions, or this was just a draft? I mean, staff's got to spend some time going through it, and but I thought I'd put it on the plate. Anybody have any comments or questions, or why, or? Go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, well, my computer says it's restricted access, so I didn't have a chance to read it. So it says no.
Top secret.
Yeah, I guess, but I mean, I understand. This has been discussed a few times as well, and yeah, I mean, I think this is something we should work on, and it should be something that is a little more appropriately zoned than what we have it as. It will not change anything to do with the rail trail. It will have zero impact. It will have, you know, nothing to do with construction, and we'll do nothing, it'll just be, you know, recognized in, I think, a little bit more appropriate use and fashion of it. And yeah, I think it's a good idea. How we do it and where we kind of layer it in is I think probably the you know, the big question, like when we go and we do updates to bylaw 1000, we know we have to do that. Yeah, just kind of where does this all kind of fit in? But no, I'm in favor of the principle behind it, because I think it's just, I mean, it even has in there permitted uses rail trail, which I think we should have that as a, you know, because that is what it's gonna be, and let's face it, I don't think it's ever gonna change. That this is not a property that'll ever be rezoned. It'll always be the rail trail. So, no, I'm in support of it.
Go ahead, Deb.
Yeah, I read it from your attachment and yeah, no, all good. But are we like able, so we would recommend that to council and then they would, can it actually be changed once it's been designated as a park, or how? I guess I'm just trying to understand how that works.
No, it can be changed. It could be changed, unless Kelly's got anything you.
Not designated as a park, that is.
Oh, sorry, I thought that's what it was.
So that's where there's a bit of confusion.
Okay.
People hear the word park and they assume designated park, it's just a zone, the name of it could be trail zone, right?
Okay.
As long as the trail is a permitted use, the name of the zone really doesn't make that much difference, right? So definitely something that can provide some more clarity and better align with the OCP as a transportation.
Yep.
You know,
Collective transportation.
whatever, and what the names and permitted uses are, we can all, yeah. And CSRD doesn't really care either from my discussions with them, as long as the rail trails are permitted use. That's really all they care about.
Yeah, we want to make sure that's.
Okay, I reviewed it and I'm good.
John, anything?
No, I'm good with it as well. I honestly wasn't 100% sure where we were all going with this one, but if it's literally just the rail trail area, then yeah, that totally makes sense to me.
Yeah. Nicole or maybe Kelly can, we can ask. I mean, it's gonna take quite a while to go through and do a review of the OCP and the OCP bylaw. Is it recommended that, are we gonna do that ourselves as a council and planning committee? Form a group like we did last time, like Deb was on the board, in the group? Or are we gonna budget next year, or are we gonna budget and farm it out? I'm not sure what you think of that. What's your thoughts on that?
Through the chair, well, I know for this year, when we were asked what kind of studies we wanted to do, we didn't put anything on our plate. We had a lot of changes in the department and we were cleaning up some of the past studies. And so definitely that's something that we could throw in. I don't see harm in us doing as much as possible on our own, and getting us to a point of public hearings and input sessions. I think it's still open.
Kelly, any comment or anything?
I don't know, it depends on how much busting the OCP open, right? And if we're doing full gutting, then we should probably have like, you know, a group like we did last time. And it was facilitated by our planner before last time, so I think once we get on top of some of our applications and determining on capacity, we'll look at whether we'll have time in-house, because if you hire and engage somebody else to do it, you still have to review it all.
Yeah.
Like when we first had somebody assist us with the zoning bylaw, and then we got a bunch of work from them, and then we had to redo it all because it's our bylaw, right? So it's tough. So maybe we can put it out there. I don't know. What the, yeah.
Okay, thanks for that, Kelly. Go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Kelly. I mean, getting an outside person is a double-edged sword. Sometimes it actually creates a whole different set of work that that you didn't want to do because he went in a different direction. So I think if we plan it properly, we can do OCP updates and do it in-house, and we might have to do, I mean, maybe the smart thing would be to hire some temporary contract help or work or people to help process the paper or whatever, rather than trying to get a consultant to say, hey, why don't you do the first draft, then it comes back, then everybody looks at it, go, oh, no, that's really not gonna work for our community. Like, I think we do know kind of what works here and what probably wouldn't. We've already talked about it a little bit, just about, things down Suswap Ave, but while it's more residential, we want commercial to go the other side, right? Like, I think there's enough people that have an idea of how the town's developing and what would make sense to how it develops to go through the OCP ourselves. And maybe take the first stab at it. If we find that we need extra help and bandwidth, then we could identify that as we go. But that's my idea, but.
Good comment. Go ahead, Kelly.
And I guess in terms of capacity.
Yeah.
And June, like if we're gonna start cracking the OCP open, like what is realistic timing for actually having the capacity and resources to start?
Okay, through the chair. Well, I was just gonna mention too, we are required to do some updates to the OCP for the housing strategy. And that's by the end of 2025.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. So we do have to crack it open. I don't know about capacity wise. What I'd like to do is like put together a project charter and see what that workload actually looks like. There's a lot of public involvement and then stakeholders, First Nations. So it is quite a project to review the entire OCP.
Yeah, well, Kelly and I talked about it once as well as we noticed like before we had Scott, Sarah and Steffi. And now we have June and yourself, and didn't know if you guys were, because there is lots coming down the pipe, and if we still had money in the budget for another Steffi to help facilitate and she could, you could provide direction. So I didn't know that in your hands and figure out, we didn't want to burn you out is what we're sort of trying to say. Okay. So yeah, okay, well, getting back to the transportation corridor, do we want to make a recommendation, or do we want to just go ahead, Nicole?
Well, I was thinking, just going back to the transportation corridor, maybe what we'll do is we'll draft this into our own zone, like make it look and smell like one. And then we'll bring it back to the PDC for a recommendation to council. And then if there's anything in here that doesn't quite align or is repetitive and elsewhere in the bylaw, then we can talk about it at PDC and then bring it to council.
Makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay,
Makes sense, that's great.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
So
Thank you very much. Okay, anything else, Nicole?
yes, to the chair. So we were talking about like 3 different things earlier, and I mentioned that we had some questions about 898 and 906 Rommel Crescent. And so the applicant has joined online. If we wanted to come back to the discussion about the rear yard setback and the purpose of it being 1.5 instead of 5, they're online now, Thomas.
Okay, great. Can you hear us, and would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, absolutely. I can hear you loud and clear. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, so I wasn't part of the meeting there earlier when you guys went over. So Nicole, if you could just brief me on the questions that you guys kind of had, and I can hopefully respond to each of those.
For sure, yeah. So we were just talking about the request, and the request is to go from a 5-meter rear setback to the 1.5 meter setback. And so there was discussion around why, and then also what about heat pumps, air conditioning? We just want to make sure that back area is retains, I guess, some clearance in case there was an emergency and people have to get back there. How is it going to work with the existing fence with the neighbor? So there was quite a few things that we were just wondering about, I guess the why 5 meters to 1.5 and how that will work.
Yeah, so essentially, once we kind of got out onto site and we went through everything, we want to make sure that we're accommodating, as I'm sure you guys understand that we have parking spaces for all parties. And because we're trying to do up-down splits on either unit, we want to make sure that on top of the garage parking in the center, that we have enough space on the sides for the basement tenants as well. And with the 5-meter setback, that was going to be really, really difficult. And we're going to have to actually look at cutting more of the trees that are on site down to make that work. So in an effort to try and keep the, as much green space as we possibly can and not have, gravel or asphalt driveways take up the entire property. If we could push back, that would allow us quite a bit more space to be able to do that. And then in regards to the mini splits, yeah, so we have 4 mini splits across the rear yard there. And I've kind of been in discussions there back and forth. Essentially, what we're hoping to do is a nice tall fence there to give 1405 as much privacy as they want. And then, yeah, the mini split itself is 14 inches deep, and it can be mounted 9 inches off the building. So that still gives quite a bit of space for servicing, access if it's required. Of course, if there's an issue with, proximity for getting in for fire and whatnot, we're more than happy to work with you. It's just in my experience, 1.5 is kind of the next the setback. So we just kind of went with that. If 2 meters is easier for you guys at the district to work with, I think that we'd be open to kind of whatever you guys would recommend with what's the safe working space that you would need.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, go ahead, Ian.
Well, yeah, that, we actually did pass a bit of a motion, you weren't on there, where we were recommending that it be in excess of 2 meters. And I guess the rationale behind that, if I'm characterizing the discussion properly, if I'm not, anybody jump in, was just some concern about once you have you just mentioned a fence, rather large fence up there, that there'd just be enough access for any type of emergency, fire, whatever. Yeah, so I mean, if you can work with 2 meters, I think that made people feel a little more comfortable than 1.5.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. More than happy with 2 meters. And really we just kind of, what if we have the 2 meters, we might not even go that close, we may come off to 2.5, but we just want to make sure that we kind of have the space in the front yard to accommodate parking spaces, but also have respect towards the greenery and the foliage that's, currently on that site still.
That makes complete sense. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, thank you very much for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, well, we all got our marching orders on that one. Okay, anything else, Nicole? You good? Okay, well, it looks like we're getting close to the end. We got public input. Anybody have anything they want to bring up? Right?
Couple things.
Thank you.
You were talking about kind of cleaning up areas, like on Riverside or Martin. What can we do about fellow that's west of Powder Lights? That looks like a junkyard.
Yeah, no, I actually went online. I thought that was actually a residential lot. And I went online, Brendan and I talk about it all the time. We've got it, that's got to be cleaned up. But it is commercial. And I'm not sure if we can get the gentleman to put up a fence. Or, I mean, it's now he's overspilling onto the street now. He's got his vehicles out on the street now. So
Whereabouts, so,
it's this side of Powder Lights, right beside Powder Lights, on this side,
oh, okay.
on the west side.
In the pictures to the left
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, one with all the cars.
This one right there. Is that what we're talking about? I'm just trying to orient myself. Yeah,
The next,
That one.
yeah.
The 2-1.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
That looks pretty organized compared to what it is right now.
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Well, if we have a bylaw complaint form, and if someone doesn't complain, then our bylaw will look into it and unsightly premises and can issue a letter, go over and investigate, and then issue an appropriate letter. So I think that would be a good starting point.
yeah,
That,
yeah. No, that would be good. Would you want to initiate that? Oh, that would be great. I know it's on Deb's radar.
I've done a few complaints. I've got a lot of stuff on my radar, yeah.
Okay, go ahead then, Brian. You might have one more.
On your slides. Talking about, but it showed like Haberman's property, the Brown land and mine as community comprehensive. What the heck does that mean?
Community comprehensive.
Is this in the
Community-
OP or the zoning?
I can't remember which one we were talking about, but it was probably the one in Silver Sands RV Park.
Mhm.
And you had a slide that showed property across the river and it showed it as community comprehensive.
Maybe Old Town?
Maybe. Oh, right
Right
there.
there.
There. It's a OCP, the Fisherman Community Fund. So then the designation of comprehensive community area within the OCP, what does that mean? We have to look at that definition and say, what is, I don't have it up in front of me, but it would mean that, like, you know, like it's medium density or whatever. I'm not sure what comprehensive community area is. We'd have to pull up the OCP and actually look at it.
I think, maybe Kelly, that was when we were trying to get the campground
Could be.
designated as a community comprehensive area.
Through the chair.
Deals.
Our OCP says that this area has been identified by the district as a potential area for the development of a community amenity, education and recreation area.
Campground.
We were going through the OCP, planning of the campground, Brian. And
What it's known, what's in the official designation.
I know you'd still like to have that out there, so would we, but
Yeah, that's probably why.
you know, it's too much. Dealing with the ALC, I know what you mean. Okay, no, good questions. Thank you. Yeah. Anybody else have anything? Anybody online? Oh, I guess Ian might have something to add.
All right.
Pretty.
Well, there wasn't anything. I've had a couple of, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'm asking just so I can give the proper answer back. Is that because there was a change of use recently with Joe Schmuck's property that is going from a motel, hotel to a longer term rental. And I certainly have no issues with that, but I've had a couple of questions about it, of whether that is a change of use. What I've said is that I don't believe it is, and they can actually go long term, and we're trying to encourage that. But maybe I just ask either June or yourself that is that a change of use where there would have to be a rezone or there'd have to be something done on that site? I don't know. That's kind of my question, and in relation to the questions that I've gotten.
No,
Through the chair. I mean, I don't know offhand. I'd have to take a peek at the zoning and see what the uses.
Zoning's commercial, highway commercial.
Right, so then, and what are the permitted uses within highway commercial?
Oh, I see.
So then
Yeah.
I have to see if that is whatever kind of dwelling, an accessory use, permitted use within all the other uses. I don't know if it's highway
Is it
commercial.
C1 or
Yeah.
C2?
C1 or C2,
Probably C2.
I think it's C2.
with highway.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, it's definitely a highway. Sorry to just throw that out there, but it was something that,
yeah, it's a kind of concern because it was a viable business and it was up and running and operating, and now the doors are closed, and what is it gonna look like in a month, or like, not a month, like a year? You know, it's nice to keep it open, but I guess they elected to shut her down.
I can see multi-unit dwelling as an accessory use under C2.
Employee dwelling unit, multi-unit dwelling.
unit dwelling, okay,
Thank you.
right there, then that's a permitted use, yep. Yeah, and I, like I said, I asked that question just so I'm clear, because I have obviously no issue with long-term rentals anywhere in St. Louis. But that's just to clear it up, that it is a permitted use. Yeah,
Okay, great.
thank you for indulging me.
Okay, anybody else? Hey, sounds good. Well, I'd like to recommend that the Planning and Development Committee meeting June 19th be adjourned at what is it, 10:50? Can I have a mover? Ian, seconder Deb, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, everybody.
Only a few quick seconds, almost 2 hours.
Well, some of it though was good to go through.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
some of it has
Took after
a little
that I
more
thought.
meaty, like,
Yeah.